That's it. So, hello everybody. My name is Alex, and I'm part of the editorial team at Crypto Briefing. So you can check us at cryptobriefing.com for the best news. I would say, very reliable news, some of the best research in the industry, and yeah, the best insights. With me, I have the pleasure to have here Mike and Hisham. So to start off with, why don't we have a little introductory? How did you get into the crypto rabbit hole? And what's it about your project interesting?
Sure. So hello everyone. My name is Hisham Khan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aldrin, and Aldrin is a DEX on Solana. And a little bit about the crypto rabbit hole. I think my story is not so special. I used to think it was special, and then you talk to people in the space and they all have very similar experiences. I was working at Bloomberg. I've been a product manager for the last, I'd say, 5+ years, involved in technology space for 10 years now. And while I was at Bloomberg, I was always interested in emerging technologies like, blockchain, machine learning, AI, was looking into quantum computing, just sort of interested in how these technologies would shape the future. And that's when I started seeing some articles about blockchain and crypto in early 2017. And the frequency of those articles started to increase, and so did my interest, until I started to really look into it deeply and kind of just fell in love and thought this was going to change the future of finance and many other industries. And so decided to leave Bloomberg and start working on the ideas in 2018. We were doing a lot of different things at that time, but in the last year we've transitioned into DeFi, and as I mentioned, we're a DEX on Solana now. So yeah.
What about you, Mike?
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Oso. I am the partner and head of business development at Cook Finance and also OvenSwap. I'm a 16-year Wall Street guy, ex-MSCI index provider, and also ex-Gemini guy. And now I have fully dived into DeFi, believing in the industry as well as the proposition, that DeFi is going to make available to everyone. Cook Finance itself is a portfolio management DeFi platform. It is also a platform where we allow the community to select and create a strategy that everyone can literally, choose from. And on the OvenSwap side, we believe, that, index is going to be a growing industry. At the same time, we also believe that index-to-index trading could be the next biggest market, including the LP tokens. So we are looking at both the primary side, issuance side, and also the secondary market trading side.
Awesome, thank you. Very simple question to start off with. What do you think are the major hurdles to have a wider adoption in DeFi?
In my opinion, it's more so to do with the ease of getting into it. I'd say fiat on-ramps are definitely needed to interact with all these DeFi applications. Also, the user experience, I would say, needs to be improved over time. Things are very technical, and they're hard for someone that's not familiar with crypto to just, start using or interacting with a DeFi application. A lot of us take it for granted because we've been in the crypto space for, let's say, a number of years, and we've used crypto exchanges, and so it's a little bit easier to then transition from that into the DeFi applications that are being built. But I'd say, we need to have better on-ramp educating. Need people to be educated on these applications. All this stuff is really cutting edge of finance here, and so a lot of the stuff happening under the hood is pretty complex. It's complicated, right? So making it as easier for people to absorb all of that, to be able to interact with it, use with it. It certainly helps that the alpha is so big here, right? You can earn a lot of money if you understand what's going on. So it does pull in a lot of folks, and they go through the hurdles and the challenges for it. But if we want to have hundreds of millions of people using DeFi, then it has to be simpler. It has to have better on-ramps, and overall the user experience to be a lot better.
I agree. Do you guys have any specific strategies within your projects to help settle that user base? Well, at least yeah.
Right. Our belief is that diversification is probably the way to go, because not everyone can read all the white papers, understand all the technology stacks, and at the same time, there are many themes going on in the market, and each season has its own hottest topics. So, starting with the DeFi summer, NFT, currently going, the metaverse, that is upcoming, it is not easy to just choose a single name, and be able to pick the right horse out of the gates, So our belief is that, diversification, being able to get into a portfolio is probably the way to go, and that's the belief on our side in the Coke market as well.
Awesome. What do you had some?
I was just going to mention that today, if you want to interact with DeFi applications, you have to, get a wallet, and then you have to basically, use one AMM. Let's say if you want to trade, if you want to do borrow lending, you go to a different platform, and so on and so forth, right? So, we're going to have to get to a stage where more of these applications and these products are provided under the same company, same brand, and that's what we're going for at Aldrin. So we started off with an order book DEX. And we were still quite early on Solana, and so we realized that to build a DEX that users can really interact with in a good way, they first need to have a wallet on Solana. And now we have a lot of great options, but about 10 months ago, the wallet experience was really bad. So we set to build out sort of like a wallet. And so now we have a wallet, we have an order book DEX, we launched an AMM, and now we're transitioning Aldrin into more of like an ecosystem of products. So when a user comes into, for example, the Solana ecosystem, right, they don't have to look at 10, 15 different products to use them for interaction. So, more of those sort of things, making the onboarding easier, bringing accessibility to users is probably going to help.
So I guess security also goes hand in hand with that. Is that an aspect that you feel makes users stay within your protocols, the security aspect?
Sure. Security is definitely important, right? It's like it's one thing that can kill your brand and company overnight. So at Aldrin, we take it really seriously. We're not an anonymous team. Obviously, our names are out there. We like to be as transparent and open as possible. And so, at least at our company, we make sure that the stuff that we're pushing out is audited. Of course, there's been some sort of compromises even for audited protocols. All this stuff is pretty new, but that's a good place to start. Get stuff audited. I know even for us, for example, we want to move fast at times. We're working on some exciting features and want to release them, but we'd have to hold on to make sure there's proper peer reviews done, there are audits done. So security is definitely a big factor, right? And so, and what's the cost of it? It really depends. If you have $100 million in your protocol, then the cost to secure it is sort of like $100 million, right? So it really just depends on how serious you take it. What do you have on the line, right? So in DeFi, we do see protocols with anonymous founders, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's just a space in the industry that we're in. But definitely, I think as more time goes by, I think all the projects will learn as well. So we will learn from other mistakes that other projects have made and make sure we don't overlook certain areas when it comes to security.
100% agree. I think DeFi and smart contracts in general already took away many of the risks that the CeFi side, actually we have to take into considerations, right? There's the counterparty risk that's gone, the credit risk that's gone, and the security becomes the most important point of audit, so to speak, right? That's exactly how everyone will trust the protocol, how user will get adopted, all based on the trust that the smart contract is performing exactly as they should.
Thanks for that. Yeah. Where did you find the balance between creating a product that's attractive for institutional investors at the same time is also good for normies like me? Let's put it this way. The average Joe or the average user. Where's the balance in that?
Your question is about balance
between creating a product that is attractive to institutional investment,
right,
and at the same time,
right,
retail.
Right. So completely agree with what you said earlier. The UX is extremely important. We have actually have had users and some of the investors, coming to us and say that I love your protocol. The UI looks very sleek, but at the same time, I actually don't know what to do in order just to get the very first step out of the gates, right? And even though we have a very simple thing, very similar to Uniswap, connect a wallet, right? But many people who are not already in the crypto scene may not understand what is the first step in order to cross that, threshold. At the same time, like I said before, for anyone who may be new, who may not be crypto native, and not to mention the fact that they may not be an early investor in a VC sense, they really don't know, exactly which one is going to come out. Our view is that, coming from a traditional finance background, diversification, allows you to take away the fat tails in terms of the, statistical model, if you will, and it allows you to gain basically what the market allow you to gain. And my strong view is that, all assets are actually at the same time increasing, not only because the asset, the token itself, use cases are increasing, but at the same time, the dollar is debasing on a continuous basis right now because they keep printing money, right? Everything is actually priced relative to US dollars, and for that reason, everything looks like they're rising in a very slow but continuous sense, But like I said before, to take away the risk, to diversify a little bit, you will be able to gain exactly at the rate of market.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that, we're actually looking at some tools in how we can provide better execution for large traders, and that could include institutions, of course, right? So just looking at some ways if traders are looking to execute large orders on an AMM, how can we make it more capital efficient? So we're looking at some different averaging algorithms and kind of bringing that in, it's still new stuff. We don't know how the institutions and large traders will interact with it. So, but that's just one area that we're working on specifically that could help large traders.
Cool, thank you. So if we jump back to the retail side of things, for someone who starts trading and doesn't really know what to do, someone who's new to the industry, DeFi or even using a centralized exchange, but let's stick to DeFi. We just see copy trading as a viable strategy, if that can be called a strategy.
Right, that's actually a great topic. I was reading a Masari research report as to what the top holdings of the top 10 crypto funds are, including the A16Z, Pantera, and many of the well-known names out there, right? Number one, within the smart contract space, it is extremely easy to see what everyone is holding. And I'm sure the firms like Analysis, Masari, they know what everyone is doing at the same time, So our view is that average user, myself included, even though I've been in the space for a few years, it is very insightful to see what the biggest funds are holding and investing at the same time. So if you were to say that, do they endorse, the performance, of those holdings? Maybe, maybe not, but I feel pretty comfortable, just, by able to see what they're doing, at the same time, potentially copying, the portfolio. So, I myself like that idea. As a matter of fact, one of our DAO proposals was to basically copy, what the top funds are doing and be able to replicate a portfolio in a DeFi sense,
Yeah, I definitely think it makes it easier for retail traders who are just getting in. So, there's so much innovation happening. It's hard for forget retail, everyone, all of us in the space, to keep up with it all. So if there are good, let's say, some thought leaders or funds that have specific kind of allocations, it's a good way to diversify for sure.
Cool. I guess that's a last question from my side is going to interoperability between layer ones. How do you think this can affect your line of business in terms of adoption? Is it something that you're looking forward to, or maybe it's in your roadmaps, or?
In our case, we feel like it's still kind of early, and we know we're going to a multi-blockchain world, and there's going to be multiple layer ones, and we're going to have some presence on all of them. But our choice right now is Solana, and to really focus on that, we're really bullish on the future of Solana and the kind of excitement that it has, the growth that it has seen, and rightfully so. And so the user experience on Solana is really top notch. And our focus as a team is fully on one chain, but that's not to say that we're not going to look into other chains. And some protocols and some projects are already doing that. It makes sense if you're basically a big brand and people know of your product and they use it on one chain, and then for you to do kind of cross-chain stuff. It makes sense. However, it has its own challenges, right? So, for instance, if a token already launched, let's say on Solana, and they had to give some sort of an incentive and farming and all of that, that's already happening here. Then if you're launching another, a replica of whatever your product is on BSC or Avalanche or Ethereum, oftentimes you may not have those incentives to keep giving that out for growth hacking. So that's why we're seeing every layer one has its own protocols that are building, and they're giving these rewards and these APRs and APYs to kind of bring in all the users and use that for growth hacking. So we've seen Sushi, for example, going cross-chain, and I think they're doing okay, but still, I would say it's kind of early. But the end goal for all of this eventually is like users should be able to interact with applications without worrying about what chain is behind it all, right? So that's like the ultimate goal of where we need to be at like that user experience for it to be bringing in mass adoption. Because like we don't really expect people to start learning about layer ones and transaction speeds, like transaction times and speeds and all of that. That's really not realistic if we're going to bring in a billion people onto the blockchain.
Agreeing with you once again. On our side, yesterday we launched an alpha launch. In addition to Ethereum network that we're already operating on, and we also plan to launch on additional networks, BSC, how many out there. So very excited about that, but at the end of the day, it's all about adoption. Different ecosystems have their own user base, and we also think that, we want to make it easy for everyone, especially since, portfolio a lot of times, cater to, newer commerce in the crypto space.
Good, I agree, yeah. I wanted to open it to you guys to see if you have any alpha releases or anything that you might want to share with us here today. Is there anything specific, maybe in the roadmaps or like?
Roadmap-wise, we are extremely excited. We think one of the biggest challenge, interestingly, is that most of the crypto investors, especially those who are on secondary markets, Uniswap and the likes, they do not have access to early investments. We are working on something that would allow a more open, democratic way for people to invest into early projects. Due to the fact that today there's a cycle where projects have to raise money first, and then they will use some of that capital, if you will, to provide into the Uniswap market making model. And that's very costly. It's into operating our model. We think there's a new way to allow all the different projects, to use a new structure, kind of keeping everything under the hood right now, to gain adoption and also be able to grow the project in a quicker sense. So that's one, But if you were to ask me about, say the alpha, the interesting ideas out there, the DeFi 2.0, the own model is extremely interesting. I was actually explaining on Kitco News, a little bit earlier, that it actually resembles a lot of the traditional market, current, monetary systems, and also FX strategies. How currencies are being pegged or not. But otherwise, I myself am watching home and see how the Olympic style would perform.
Yeah, on our side, the big thing that we're working on internally in terms of strategy is moving away from just being a DEX to transitioning towards being a technology company. Because we realize that there's so much new innovations happening, like DeFi 2.0, and what we're looking for is like, how do we bridge projects together, have an ecosystem of applications that are basically integrated with each other, supporting each other, and kind of enabling ourselves to do that. And so we're going to be sharing some stuff in the coming weeks about Aldrin and how the kind of products that are going to come out and get released. And how they'll drive value back to Aldrin, but still have its own kind of independent applications. That's not public yet, but I don't know if that's alpha or not. But other than that, I think, yeah, totally agree. DeFi 2.0 is super exciting. It's experimental. Some people will say it's a Ponzi. Some will say it's really like, genius. So time will tell. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like we're seeing so much innovation happening, and we're finally starting to scratch the surface of like this programmable money concept. Like in 2017, it was still really early, and I still feel like even today in DeFi, it's really early. We're going to see a lot of creative and cool ideas to come out in the next 2, 3, or 5 years that we can't even imagine right now. Like if you were talking to someone 2 years ago and you mentioned that there would be $250 billion locked in DeFi, they would laugh at you, right? But since in the last 2 years, we got this DeFi 1.0, let's call it now. It was DeFi, but now we have the 2020 DeFi protocols. We've had this rise in NFTs, GameFi, Metaverse, and now we're looking at DeFi 2.0. So it just goes to show the speed and the scale of innovation happening in this industry. So there should be a lot more exciting products and protocols to come out in the future.
Yeah, exciting times are coming indeed. I'm going to leave it open to the public, see if there's any questions around. Anyone wants to ask a question? All right. Seems like, yeah. It's been great to have you here, guys, in the panel, Mike and Hisham. So, yeah, with having said all of this, let's give them a big round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.